You remember when there were more of them, not in a distant childhood way, in a recent way, a few summers ago way. The way you remember a specific afternoon when 3 or 4 were working the same patch of flowers at the same time, and you stopped what you were doing just to watch them. Now you watch the same garden, and something is quieter. The flowers are still there. The sun still comes through the same way in the afternoon. But the garden feels different in a way that is hard to name precisely. And the thing that is missing is something you didn't think to protect until it was already less than it was. Most people assume it is the world, climate, seasons shifting, forces too large and distant to do anything about. And those things are real, but they are not the whole story. There are things happening in your garden specifically, things you do on ordinary days without thinking about them. Small, habitual, well-intentioned things that add up over weeks and months and seasons to a garden that butterflies visit less and less. Not because the butterflies gave up on your garden, because your garden stopped being what they needed. Here is what nobody tells you. Butterfly populations in suburban North America have declined by more than 80% in some regions over the past 2 decades. And the leading drivers of that decline are not industrial pesticides or highway construction. They are the small, cumulative decisions made by millions of ordinary gardeners who had no idea what they were doing. The garden you maintain with care and attention may be quietly working against the very thing you most want to see in it. And in almost every case, the things causing the most damage are the things that feel the most like good gardening. Welcome to the Near Wild. If this is your first time here, subscribe, because what you are about to learn will change the way you see every living thing that visits your garden. Today we are going through 7 things that are slowly pushing butterflies out of your yard, and most of them are things you do every single day without a second thought. Some of these will surprise you. Some of them will make you look at your garden differently the moment you step outside after this video. Stay until the very end, because the last one is not about what you are doing wrong. It is about something butterflies do that most people have never understood, and once you do, you will never see one sitting still in your garden the same way again. Number 1. Your outdoor lights are running at night, and they are pulling butterflies away from everything they need. This is the most invisible killer in the list because it happens entirely while you sleep. Artificial light at night, porch lights, garden path lights, decorative string lights left on through the evening, disrupts butterfly behavior at a biological level that most gardeners have never been told about. Butterflies use light to navigate, to time their life cycles, and to regulate the hormonal processes that govern reproduction. Research from the University of Exeter, studying the impact of artificial light on pollinator behavior, found that moths and butterflies exposed to artificial light at night showed significant disruption to their navigational systems, flying toward the light source repeatedly rather than moving between food plants and roosting sites, burning energy they cannot replace, and missing the cues their bodies use to regulate egg-laying and feeding cycles. For caterpillars, the stage that determines whether there will be butterflies at all next season, artificial light disrupts the photoperiod signals that tell them when to pupate. Caterpillars exposed to artificial light at night in otherwise ideal habitats show significantly delayed or failed pupation compared to those in natural darkness. The fix is one of the simplest in this list. Turn off the garden lights at night, switch porch lights to motion-activated settings that do not run through the small hours. If you have string lights you love, put them on a timer that shuts them off by 10. The butterflies in your garden need the dark as much as they need the flowers. Number 2. You are removing the weeds that their caterpillars depend on to survive. This is the item that most gardeners find hardest to accept, because it requires rethinking what a weed is and what a well-maintained garden is supposed to look like. Eastern tiger. Swallowtails lay their eggs on wild cherry and tulip tree. Monarchs require milkweed, exclusively milkweed, and no other plant will support their larvae through completion. Painted ladies depend on thistles. Common checkered skippers need mallows. Eastern black swallowtails need plants in the carrot family. Queen Anne's lace, wild parsley, fennel. The North American Butterfly Association maintains comprehensive documentation of the host plant requirements for every major butterfly species found in suburban North American environments, and the documentation is consistent on one point. Most butterfly species cannot complete their life cycle on the ornamental plants that fill the average suburban garden. The caterpillar stage is not flexible about this. It requires the specific host plant its species has co-evolved with over millions of years, and no substitute works. When you remove what most people call weeds from the edges of your garden, the milkweed coming up at the fence line, the wild parsley at the border, the thistle in the corner, you are not cleaning up the garden. You are removing the nursery. The butterflies that visit your flowers next summer depend on the plants you pulled out this spring. Leave a corner. Leave an edge. Let the fence line go a little wild. The butterflies will find it. Number 3. Your pesticide drift is reaching plants you never intended to treat. This is the most technical item in the list and the one most people underestimate because the damage is invisible until the population is already gone. Pesticide drift, the movement of spray particles or vapor beyond the intended application area, has been documented in residential gardens at distances of up to 30 feet from the point of application under normal wind conditions. Systemic pesticides, which are absorbed by plants and expressed in their pollen, nectar, and leaf tissue, create toxic exposures for butterflies and caterpillars that feed on those plants for weeks or months after a single application. Research from the Xerces Society for Invertebrate Conservation, documenting pesticide impacts on non-target pollinators, found that neonicotinoid systemic pesticides, among the most commonly used in residential gardens and widely available in garden centers under multiple brand names, remain active in plant tissue for the full growing season after a single soil drench application. A butterfly nectaring on a treated flower is receiving a neurological dose that may not kill it immediately, but impairs its navigational ability, reduces its reproductive success, and in cumulative exposures over a season, contributes to population decline at the garden level. The adjustment does not require eliminating all pest management. It requires separating pest management zones from butterfly habitat zones and choosing contact pesticides over systemic ones in areas where butterflies feed. It requires reading labels carefully for the specific words, neonicotinoid and systemic. And it requires accepting that some pest damage on some plants is the cost of a garden that supports the full range of life you want to see in it. Number 4. You are mowing too early in the spring and destroying overwintering habitat before it has served its purpose. Butterflies overwinter in your garden in ways most people never see. Depending on the species, they spend the cold months as eggs on plant stems, as caterpillars in leaf litter, as chrysalises attached to dead stalks, or in the case of some species, as adults sheltering in the spaces beneath bark, in hollow stems, and within dense ground-level plant material. The first mow of spring, the one that tidies up the winter debris, cuts back the dead stalks, clears the leaf litter from the garden beds arrives in most American gardens before the overwintering forms of most local butterfly species have completed their development and emerged. Research from the Entomological Society of America has documented that the safe window for first spring garden clearing does not open until daytime temperatures have consistently reached 50 degrees Fahrenheit for at least 2 weeks, a threshold that most American gardens do not reach until well into April in the South and May or June in northern states. Most gardeners do their spring clearing in March. In March, the chrysalises are still in the dead stalks. The caterpillars are still in the leaf litter. The eggs are still on the stems you are cutting and removing. The adjustment is to wait. Leave the dead stalks standing until the temperatures tell you it is safe. Leave the leaf litter at the garden edges until late spring. Let the mess stand a little longer than feels comfortable. The mess is where next summer's butterflies are sleeping. Number 5. Your garden blooms in a window, and then it stops. Butterflies need continuous nectar availability across the entire warm season, from the first warm weeks of early spring through the last weeks before first frost. A garden that blooms abundantly in June and July and then goes largely quiet in August and September is a garden that fails its butterfly population at precisely the moment when many species are building the energy reserves they need to survive migration or overwintering. Research from the Pollinator Partnership, studying nectar availability in residential gardens across North American climate zones, found that the most common failure point in suburban butterfly gardens is late summer and early autumn. The period from mid-August through October, when most common ornamental plants have finished blooming and native late-season species have been removed or never planted. Monarchs begin their southern migration in August and September and require abundant late-season nectar to fuel a journey of up to 3,000 miles. Eastern tiger swallowtails have multiple broods per season and require continuous nectar availability to support the adults of each successive brood through completion. A garden that goes quiet in August tells every butterfly passing through that this is not a place to stop, not a place to linger, not a place worth returning to. The adjustment is straightforward. Plant for every month of the warm season deliberately. Native asters bloom from August through October. Native goldenrod blooms August through September. Native ironweed carries through September and October. These plants are not difficult. They are simply less commonly sold in garden centers than the ornamental plants that bloom in June. Seek them out. Plant them at the back of the bed where they will not compete visually with summer bloomers. Let the garden bloom in August, the way it blooms in June. Number 6. Your garden has no mud and no shallow water, and butterflies are going somewhere else to find both. This is the item most people have never heard of. It sounds almost too simple to matter. It matters enormously. Puddling is a behavior in which butterflies, almost exclusively males, gather at shallow mud puddles, wet sand, or the edges of slow streams and pools to extract sodium, amino acids, and minerals from the moisture. These minerals are not available through nectar alone and are essential for reproductive success. Males transfer sodium to females during mating, and sodium availability has been documented as a direct predictor of egg viability and larval survival in multiple butterfly species. Research from the University of Florida's entomology program studying puddling behavior in North American butterfly populations found that the availability of appropriate puddling sites within a butterfly's foraging range is a significant predictor of whether male butterflies establish territories in that area, and territorial establishment by males is the prerequisite for mating activity and egg-laying by females. A garden with flowers and host plants, but no puddling site, is a garden that attracts passing visitors, but does not anchor a resident population. The fix is a shallow dish, a terracotta saucer, a wide clay plate, filled with coarse sand and kept consistently moist, placed in a warm, sunny spot at ground level. That is all. A mud puddle that never dries out. Add a small pinch of sea salt occasionally. The butterflies will find it within days of the season opening, and when the males find it, the females follow. Number 7. The last thing is not something you are doing wrong. It is something you may have seen without ever understanding what you were watching. On warm afternoons, butterflies do something that looks like resting. They land on a flat, warm surface, a stone, a garden wall, a patch of bare earth, spread their wings open, and sit completely still. Sometimes for minutes at a time, sometimes longer. If you have a garden where butterflies visit, you have almost certainly seen this. Most people assume they are tired or warming up, which is partly true. Butterflies are ectothermic and require external heat to regulate their body temperature, and the open-wing basking posture is a genuine thermoregulation behavior documented extensively in lepidopterist research. But there is something else happening in that stillness that researchers studying butterfly behavior at the University of Massachusetts have begun to document more carefully. The basking pause is also the moment in which a butterfly assesses the overall safety and suitability of its environment. It is not a passive rest, it is an active evaluation of temperature, of light quality, of the chemical signals from the plants around it, of the presence or absence of threats in the immediate space. A butterfly that basks in your garden is not simply warming itself. It is deciding whether your garden is a place it can stay. The length of the pause, the frequency of return visits, the choice to bask in the open rather than at the garden's edge. These are readings of the accumulated quality of everything your garden offers. The butterflies that spend long afternoons sitting still in your garden, wings spread, unhurried. They have made an assessment. They have found this place warm enough, safe enough, rich enough in what they need to justify the stillness. That assessment is fragile. It is made fresh each season, each visit, each warm afternoon, when a butterfly lands on your garden wall and opens its wings. The fact that any butterfly has made it in your garden, that any of them has sat still in the sun in a space you have tended, is not a small thing. It means your garden cleared a bar. It means something in what you have built here was enough. Keep building. Make it more. Tell me in the comments, which butterfly visits your garden most often? And have you ever watched one sit completely still and just open its wings? I want to know what species it was and how long it stayed.